Welcome to the L2 Interop Working Group. This is call 13 in the series, and it is PM issue 1713 in the PM repo. I will share the agenda in the chat, and we can just dive into things, starting off with a recap and maybe brief Q&A of the protocol update 003 that went out last week on the improved UX track. Go for it, Barnaby. Oh, you might need permission to share your screen if you want.
Oh, that's okay. I can just talk. Maybe we can drop the link in the chat. So yeah, we had like a post last week from EF Protocol, our R&D teams working on protocol and interop, laying out a set of projects that we intend like to take on to accelerate Ethereum interoperability. So some of these projects that you see on this note, they are things that were already active, but I think the aim of the post was to try and frame them like with a greater sense of strategic purpose or direction that ties together like all of these different initiatives. And this is, I'm speaking like from my perspective, like how I understand this, and few of us in EF have, I would say, slightly different perspectives on this. But to me, the through line of all of this is trying to close the gap between what would be some kind of ideal protocol interop, so Ethereum protocol interop, and effectively what we have today in terms of our interoperability stack. And the gap that exists between the two, to me, I frame it a little bit as the gap between what Ethereum provides as settlement, like what the Ethereum protocol provides, and what alternative settlements exist. So, for instance, Ethereum settlement is quite expensive because you have to coordinate like this very large set of validators to come together and to sign off on like a route, and that takes time. That takes like coordination of billions of dollars, and so there's many ways to accelerate that and to have alternatives. So one of them is just third-party bridges, like they have their own way of settling the messages and the value that transits through them, either because they reduce, let's say, the economic security, or because they have their own trust or reputation. Like if you're Circle and you're doing your own asset issuance, like that's you're backing that through your own brand essentially. That's one way, and another way to bridge the settlement gap, or to like almost like make it disappear, is through intents. Like you essentially like move the settlement risk from the user to another party, which is the solver or the filler. And so in my sense, the more we close the gap between the ideal Ethereum settlement and these other various forms of settlement, the better we can improve interoperability like across the stack and for every types of use case. For instance, when we close the distance between Ethereum settlement and third-party bridges, I think that makes asset issuance on Ethereum become a stronger value proposition. When we close the gap between Ethereum settlement and between intents, we reduce the risk that third parties are taking on behalf of the user. And so we also reduce the costs, and we can make things more trustless. And so there's a lot of benefits to doing that. And so in the project that we have, the first stream is really about laying down like some of the foundations of intent-based architecture. So we think it's a good place to start because this intent layer is like very close to the UX. Like it's been recognized as a very strong alternative for users to just like communicate operations that they want to do cross chains. So this centrality, I would say, almost of like the intent layer makes it that it's a good place to push standards, for instance, from like when you bundle like other standard like interoperable addresses, cross-chain messaging, along with like these intents that realize like a lot of the information that the users communicate. That can be a very strong vector of adoption. And it still feels like at this intent layer, there's a lot of greenfield designs that we can explore. So open intents framework, like we are looking into different extensions, different modules that can be added to strengthen its stack. The Ethereum interoperability layer, EIL, is another like new design that seeks to fill like some of the gaps of the existing like state of the art. So yeah, it does feel like there's a lot that we can improve here. Another part that I think makes Intents like fairly interesting to focus on is that the interface is likely very future-proof. So intents today are served with like these backends of solvers or fillers that have their own capital, but as the backends evolve, and for instance, like with snarkification and faster settlement, the interface remains like pretty much the same. Like the user can still communicate their intent, like the things that they want to do through the same types of things that they would use today. And so it can be very transparent, like whenever we improve upon the backends, like this can be immediately reflected to the user. So I think that's a really powerful thing. So starting from this intent, like laying down like very strong foundations for let's say a unified, seamless Ethereum stack of interoperability. That's part one. And then part two is seeking as much as possible to close the gap between Ethereum settlement where it is today and where it should be in the future. And so the main thrust here is essentially making settlement faster. So for L1 itself, for instance, by reducing slot times, by having a more usable fast confirmation rule, which is something that I think will be presented in a month on this Interop working group, and by having faster finality in the order of a few seconds rather than 13 to 19 minutes as it is today. So I think this is really exciting and something that we should really accelerate to close the gap. That's for L1. And then for L2's faster settlement with, for instance, this 2 out of 3 finality mechanism. Like we think this is a really interesting option to explore for optimistic rollups to reduce the length of their withdrawal windows. That's one thing. Another thing that we also intend to explore quite a bit is snarkification of everything. Like that's going to be also the main thrust for other projects that we have going on in EF. And yeah, ZK proofs just allow us to get instant proofs and verifiable computation and be able to make statements about what happened like on different domains. And since the costs are becoming lower and lower, I think this is something that we need to be thinking proactively, like how do we integrate this into the architectures of tomorrow. So yeah, starting from intents, building up our way there, and then closing the gap for ideal settlement on Ethereum. And if we do that, I think we'll be in a much better place than we are today.
Awesome. Thanks, Barnaby. Any questions?
So I had a quick question about EIL. What is this Ethereum interoperability layer exactly?
Yeah, I can jump in there. Josh Barnaby, you want me to take the lead on that one?
Yeah, please do.
So yeah, kind of as we outlined in the post, EIL is this trustless cross L2 interop layer. So it's all about kind of having these multi-chain transactions, but while keeping the user in control and preserving Ethereum's core values. So I just put out like a tweet about it. I can share it in the chat after I finish this, kind of clarifying what it is, what it isn't. And currently we are still very early on. We care the most about like making sure that Interop stays aligned with Ethereum's core values. So we're just trying to figure out some more of the details on that. So a more detailed spec will be released mid-October, and then in November at DevConnect, we'll open things up for like broader community feedback, experimentation. We want to hear your guys' thoughts about it.
But will it be like ACK layer? Will it be like Chainlink? Will it be like any of these bridge solutions where multiple validators transfer information across chains? Or
yeah, we'll release more details kind of as we get closer to. But I kind of in my post kind of talked about some of that it is only a solution for Ethereum and Ethereum's rollups. It is not a solution for alt L1s, for example.
just to clarify, so this is like a cross-chain messaging protocol in a way, or improving something like that, right? What is exposed in the block?
Yes. It's a cross, yeah, I would say it's a cross-chain transaction layer. It's kind of how we're thinking about it.
Okay.
And so this transaction layer, I read a little bit in the post that it's basically executing transactions on multiple chains. Is this on the level of sending messages from chains on execution, or is this being executed on the application layer, or is this something you can't share at this point?
Yeah, that's something that is still an implementation detail that we are working through, and that will go out. A more like detailed answer to that question will come out mid-October.
All right, thanks.
Another question on this one, will this EIL will be part of the protocol, will be something on top that users can implement, right? So how will that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question that we can share. So it is not something that will go into a hard fork, for example. It does not require protocol changes in that regard. It will be there will be a bunch of ERCs that kind of combine together to define the standards around the protocol.
Okay, so basically only on the execution layer.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Quick question. Is there a reason that it's EVM only and not Alt L1? Is it just because this is built on Ethereum, so you're just keeping it EVM compatible?
Yeah, I think the thinking was like, we work for the Ethereum Foundation, so we prioritize interoperability with Ethereum and Ethereum's rollups. There are complexities in implementation details around Alt L1s that they just wouldn't be compatible with. So yeah, it wouldn't work. But perhaps there's a way in the future someone could perhaps like build an adapter. Yeah, I don't know that it would be able to work though.
Thank you.
How do you think about like Alt EVM L2s that are settling to Ethereum?
Yeah, that like I would say that is not our main focus. Kind of our main focus of this is mostly on like Ethereum and its rollups.
So what I'm getting from this is essentially on multi-chain extension of the relaying bundling part of like ERC-4337 and stuff similar to that.
I can't comment on that at this time, but more details should be made available in October.
All right, thanks.
Can I ask a question? Is this only available for EVM rollups, or is this all rollups that settle on Ethereum?
Right now, well, so the plan is EVM to start. In the future, there might be a way for other rollups. But yes, the plan is EVM. And just so you know, we're not secretive. I see a comment in the chat. We're not secretive because like we are trying to hide something. We're secretive because we just haven't figured out all the implementation details. And ideally, this would have come out later, but this blog post was coming out and it didn't feel right to have a post talking about how we're improving like crypto UX on Ethereum without talking about Ethereum interop layer, something that is going to become part of the conversation towards the later end of this year. And so that's why we included it. Ideally, this would have, I think, waited until mid-October when we come out with the post. So I'm so sorry for like not revealing all the details now. I know it must be so annoying.
It's totally understandable. I was going to say, what's the best thing we can do in the meantime to either keep up with it or support any of the research behind it? Or is there not really a way because there needs to be kind of a full coming out party in October?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like once we post mid-October, then we will really like be able to solicit feedback from the community, your ideas, how we can make it better. I'm sure there's some extensions that we can write. Yeah, like someone in the chat says cross VM support for the implementation would be interesting. And like, of course, like all of that comes with once we share the implementation details and the specs, which is not finished and things are still changing. So yeah, once that is all out, we would love to have you guys like think of how you can break it, like how like how it can be improved, like things like that. I mean, we would like to think that it will be tested as well.
Cool. Maybe one last question in the chat from Georgios. Marissa, did you want to touch on that one?
Got it. Yes. Oh yeah. Is this related to the OIF initiative at all? Yeah. So like this does not contradict OIF. OIF will continue to exist, and it has like use cases that are best for it, and I think like intents also have a use case in that regard. So yeah, this is not in contrast to OIF. This is a different like transaction layer, I would say.
Yeah, I'll just add that we're excited to continue supporting the OIF and for the OIF to play a big role going forward as well. Any other questions on EIL or Vietnam?
Yeah, maybe zooming out a bit from the EIL. I'm wondering like there's a bunch of different, I guess, efforts going on, right? Which is great, like laid out in the blog post. For me, for example, I think striking out is like the OIF. I think it's like 7786, now the EIL. And I'm wondering like if you guys have kind of like a view of like, hey, like if I'm like a, let's say, application developer, if I'm a DeFi developer, if I'm like an Interop developer, like how should I think about basically like how to kind of like, right, like do so in an aligned, like collaborate in an aligned manner, or like how am I supposed to, like how should I think about like, okay, if I built a lending protocol, right, like I can rely on this being there and this is the recommended path going forward? Or is that something that, yeah, I guess that's maybe my question.
I can give some thoughts. Oh, sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think the ideal state would be having like clear user stories and use cases and say, yeah, if you're building this, like that's what the stack looks like. Like OIF is, for instance, extremely modular, so it addresses, or at least it's supposed to address like many different parts of the app stack, like if it's more like the backend with solvers, or if it's more the interface or the intent expression and dissemination, etc. So making clear like what's the right interface for which problem, and making the interface as agnostic as possible with like the backend that supports it. I think that would be, to me at least, a clear win, because then you don't have to point people to, oh, there's like 3 different things that you should be thinking about and supporting, but say more like there's this one interface that you should be familiar with, and if you use the default, it's going to be great. And if you want to tweak the defaults, like the interface allows you to do that. So yeah, abstract away as much of the complexity as possible. Abstraction is also good because that allows you to have, I would say, less vendor lock-in and more like freedom to customize your own stack. So personally, like that's what I would support and where I want us to be within a couple of months, with like OIF being much further along in its development, EIL becoming more public and open source. So yeah, I think we'll get there pretty quickly.
Gotcha. Maybe if I can repeat back, are you saying that like basically developers ideally should use the OIF or intent interface, and like basically every kind of effort otherwise will kind of like support, right, like faster, more trustless settlement of intents, but the kind of like the way app developers, let's say, should think primarily is like, hey, you should use the OIF if you can.
Right. They should be given like a list of interfaces, and I would say many of them right now would be available like through OIF or 77x's. I don't know that falls directly under OIF, but it's definitely related. So having just like clear signposts of what to use and when. But I would say right now OIF being available, like that's a good start.
Yeah, just piggybacking off what Nam is saying, are you going to target the interface layer, or are you going to just like use OIF and 7786 and then sort of innovate on just like the verification proof layer side of it? Do you understand the question?
So you're asking like, are we only going to design like interfaces and standards, or are we actually like going to propose like different mechanisms.
What I'm
But,
asking, like OIF and 7786 are two interfaces for cross-chain, and they sort of serve different use cases. Like, should we expect to see a third interface come out of this effort, or will EIL like integrate with those existing interfaces?
oh, I see. Yeah, I would put that too, Marison.
Yeah, again, I would say like more of those implementation details will come out in October.
Okay.
Okay, well, yeah, just to keep things going on the agenda, maybe we can move on. And yes, we'll have more in weeks, not months here on the EIL and others. Thanks for your patience on this. Cool. Coming up next, ERC-3643 on RWA tokenization. Dennis?
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. I recognize a lot of great faces. I have a hard stop at 10:30, so I do apologize. And I want to thank Josh and the Ethereum Foundation for being so fantastic. I'm going to give just a quick overview of how you guys could get involved, as well as a quick summary of what ERC-3643 is. So I did have a deck prepared, but perhaps Josh, in slower time, I could share that whole deck. What I do have for everyone is, because I know there's a lot of big brains here, a lot of really smart people, which I am not, how to get involved into ERC-3643. So what ERC-3643 is about, it is a final Ethereum standard passed in December of 2024. We have built a technology nonprofit group in Luxembourg around the standard and getting people involved. And we've had an interesting 2 years in doing so. We have over 120 institutional members. We have billions of dollars on public and private chains used on the asset, using the asset. And most recently, we were named by the SEC in the Project Crypto speech as the only innovation exempted standard. Don't worry, there'll be more that you can use to tokenize securities. And I'm happy to report that 7 other Latin American countries in the world have adopted the standard. The standard, it has wide adoption overall. If you're in Europe, Middle East, or Asia, you generally can use the standard. And so how to get involved? How can you do that? So Josh asked me to put together a couple of projects that I think you guys would find interesting. Again, apologies for the shortness of time I have, and I'm happy to come back next session and give like a full presentation. We have an on-chain ID project, so if anyone finds decentralized identity interesting. We have a Chainlink ACE project, so if anyone finds data oracleization interesting. We have lots of policy work in the US and the EU that we're doing with the Crypto Task Force, the Treasury Task Force, as well as NIST. We have a cross-chain project with Layer 0 between Base and Polygon. We have a privacy project with Zama. We have a silent data applied blockchain project for zero knowledge for Inco. We have an Open Zeppelin reference implementation. And most exciting, we have a full DAO, full TRX DAO that you can get involved. So if those of you who haven't seen, I think I'm sharing my screen, you can see 3643 here. Is our website that will go through a lot of the stuff. You can see our members reference here, who's here. And most importantly, for this group, the docs. So everything's open source. We have a white paper at GitHub, and we're looking for new members and new projects all the time. But the exciting thing is the TRX DAO. So you can imagine ERC-3643, it's a permission token standard. A lot of institutionals like to look at it, adopt it, a lot of policy work. But what about everybody else? What about, the small DeFi team or the individual who wants to take the open standard and develop it and build it? Well, TRX is going to be for you. It's going to be a full DAO community. It will feature marketplace and grants. Everyone likes grants. that will be able to support your idea, your project, to build on top of this RWA ecosystem standard. We do not force single standards. We are open standards. What are open standards? Well, open standards is a concept that Ethereum, which is the leading blockchain, the community has developed standards, ERC, EIP standards. And what we want to do is broaden those standards away from just the community, but actually into government and actually into policy, which is very exciting. And we achieved that this summer with ERC-3643. But open standards matter, and multiple standards, so we don't have single winners, are very important. So if you want to get involved about it, find out more, go to ERC3643.org. We have 120 different institutional members. If you're an interested individual, go to T-Rex Network. You can absolutely follow all of our exciting developments on our X account or Twitter account. You can see Chairman Atkins announcing the standard, lots of cool stuff featured in the White House report. Another great thing to check out is Ethereum Foundation was amazing and has been really amazing to ERC-3643. And we had the opportunity for the first time ever to present at ETHCC in Cannes with my other founder, Joachim, who's actually the technical mind behind ERC-3643, which you guys can absolutely check out. So lots of good links, lots of great ways to get involved, lots of ways to find out more about the standard, build open standards. Let's get excited about that. And I know this is an incredibly special community. I want to reserve some time for questions. So does anyone have any questions about what I've presented so far? If there's no questions, or Josh, I don't see any questions, but if there's no questions, I'll take the extra time and I'll go through a little bit of the deck. Again, I do apologize that I'm so short on time today, but I'm very happy that Josh invited me. So I'll do a quick presentation, and if questions come up, feel free to interrupt me. Well, like I said, it's leading standard for permission tokens, not the only standard, but we're one of the leading ones out there, where we have a huge collaboration of law firms, policymakers, blockchains, infrastructure providers, L2s, and of course, lots of institutions using our standard, including DTCC. Common tokenization framework, right? 1400, really great, never actually official standard, lots of different implementations by really smart people. But what we're solving for is not cleverness, it's standardization, right? And we'll remember in ERC-20 days, there's a lot of ways to represent a token, but ERC-20 was the one, and we kind of all moved on. I call it like a coral reef. You set the standard, and then you build on top of it, and support Ethereum. It's a permission standard, so there's really no context of it, but most of the time you want to, because there's a lot of elevated gas and complexity, you really want to use this for like securities, although we could be used for lots of other things. We call primary and secondary marketplace. That's a fancy way of saying you have to KYC, if you need to KYC or credit yourself to buy a particular asset. If you buy from the issuer, it's primary. If you buy from another investor, it's secondary. All we need to make sure is that whoever is receiving the tokens has the correct identity. Here's a couple, and again, I'll share all the deck with Joshua so you can throw it over, and then I'd like to do a more full presentation at the next time if that's possible. But we are an official EIP standard, which you can definitely check out. We're an Ethereum magicians as well, which you can take a look. We're building dashboards. A lot of people are like, hey, 35 billion, that's a big number. Where's that coming from? It's a fully valid question. I wish it was easy to answer. We have a Dune Analytics dashboard. We all are working with RWA, XYZ team. A lot of issuers don't want to disclose, which is a problem. T-Rex going forward, the DAO will be totally transparent, but a vast majority of the assets tokenized are on EVM chains, mostly private for pilots. But we have still a fairly healthy amount, which you can check out on Dune. As I mentioned, over 120 institutional members across the whole stack. Good news, membership is free, and it's no obligation. The ERC-3643 is a community of people who care about permission tokens, token standards, and all that sort of stuff. So if you have a really good project or interesting L2 and you haven't joined us, come on in. There's tons of great, cool stuff, cool people to meet and work on. We've been very busy with institutional adoption with Citi, JP Morgan, ABN AMRO, recently in Fastenera. And we continue with DTCC. We won an award from Deloitte. We announced Chainlink, CRE, and then we even did a cross chain, as I mentioned, with Layer 0. We've been busy with regulatory. So as I mentioned, we have about 22 regulators I presented with my partner, Daniel, on the adoption of open standards, specifically for 3643. And jurisdictional approval. So, as of today, you can put the US in a green circle, and we'll be adding 5 more Latin American countries in the green circle as well. What does this mean? If you have a security and you use 3643 in the US, you can now tokenize on Ethereum. And that means public and private securities. You go to the SEC, you say, hey, this is my filing. I'm using this standard. Tell me what I need. And off we go. And so that's a lot of the work that I do on the regulatory policy side in DC. As I mentioned, if you want to get involved in that, we have lots of work to do on that sort of side. We've been featured in regulatory papers. So if reading about how regulators interpret open standards, that's your thing. We have the HKMA, Singapore, FCA, and European Securities Market. I will reserve another time to go through the technical architecture, but this is the architecture. It's a fully decentralized smart contract infrastructure. You think of it like we took an ERC-20 and we added a whole bunch of stuff on top of it, including a self-sovereign ID, on-chain ID, which usually gets a ton of questions. On-chain ID, big area for people to innovate in. So if you're interested in self-sovereign ID or identity, go to TRX DAO, get involved. Lots of cool stuff there. Registry, modular compliance, and I'll go into how that works at another time, but it's a fully decentralized architecture. Okay, I have to stop there. Any questions to this amazing group? Okay, I don't see, Josh, any questions?
No, I think that's it. And people can get a hold of you via Telegram.
Yep, you can get me at Real Dennis O, and you could go on the TRX DAO, which I encourage you to. Someone said, sad to say I'm too dumb to understand RWAs. So am I. Good. You're in good company. If you're too dumb to understand RWAs, you're good company, which is why you should come join TRX DAO and help us all become less dumb. We're big. 3643 exists because of the great community of Ethereum, and we want to encourage more people to come in and build what they need. Han says, still thinking about how the compliance part works connecting to on-chain off-chain. We'll look more connect through Telegram. Yes, please do, Han. I do apologize. I'm now way over time. I actually have another presentation I have to give to a regulator. Joshua, everyone, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for giving me the space to do a crash course. Please, I'll put some of the links down, or Joshua, I'll give you some of the links I wish you could share with everybody and get involved and help build the future with open standards. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dennis. Cool. Up next, an update and discussion on chain specific addresses 7828, the L2 resolver spec that Wonderland and others are working on, and the move away from the GitHub list to an on-chain config starting with ENS. Yes, I think we have Skelly from Wonderland. Do you want to start off?
Yeah, definitely. Hey guys. So regarding 7828, I think we are, I mean, that's done. The ERC is done. If you guys have any comments or you would like to learn more, there is the L2 Interop repo. There's a lot of information there. Ethereum magicians as well. Then as well, similarly, 7930. Thank you as well for all the feedback as always. That's as well finalized. The cool thing now is this resolver Josh was mentioning. We do have some comments here as well from the Unravel team. I think they are here as well on the call. So we'd love to hear from them as well. But the main goal is to, as a first step, move or let's say deploy a resolver for ENS that already has pre-populated a somewhat clean list of what's currently on the chain list GitHub repo. So we have the contracts ready. Everything should be public for you all to review. We can share the links later on the Telegram group with the script, obviously. For the script to work, if you ever went to the chain list repo, all the namings are a mess. So next step is let's find some cute names that the chains are going to be happy with. So that's going to be tough work. Hopefully we can get that done, let's say soonish, right? So no L2 or chain, I don't know, is sad that they ended up with an ugly name. Besides that, whenever we have everything populated, this like anybody can check locally that the script and everything resolved correctly, and we'll create a proposal for the ENS DAO to take ownership of that resolver. Later on, and probably you guys have questions on, okay, what if, I don't know, somebody wants to update or modify the records, etc., etc. The ownership part is not yet defined. We are aiming to define this as a separate scope of work. If you have any ideas or any concerns regarding ownership, please let us know. We'll be working and we'll let you guys as well know when we start working and tackling these problems soon enough. That's it. We had a question about a comment regarding the work from Unruggable, but
I think we lost you, Skelly. I don't know, Mobius, if you could finish Skelly's sentence. Yeah, we lost you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, just I was saying that if you wanted to present 7785, then we can go and ask some questions that we had regarding that.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we hand it over to the Unruggable folks here.
Yeah, hi, my name is Martin Leto. I'm representing Unruggable. We are an independent R&D firm that's embedded within the ENS DAO. And that is to say, we are here to represent some of the ENS specific interests. We've been doing some work on the registry, and basically there's two main things that I would like to bring up. The first one is it involves the resolver that should be used for this registry. Because when we want to use ENS as the canonical registry for these chains, it introduces some strict requirements. We need to comply to some of the ENS IPs that specify exactly how you resolve some of these chain records, and even maybe how the kind of data it takes, like the name hashes, or basically the DNS encoding. So that is one key area that we need to be alert about if we are working with ENS as the registry. It has its own rules and compliance. So I can send a couple of them just to show the main ones, starting with ENS IP10 here, which basically it's the spec for how we do the resolving, and we will potentially need to introduce another ENS IP that can help us resolve a name record, like a human-friendly name like base.l2.eth. We resolve the chain ID and it gives us the 7785 chain identifier. So all this is to say there's a lot of ENS specific stuff that is going to be involved here. Moving on to my second point, looking at the 7785 registry, we were trying to figure out the logic behind the attributes that are used to derive this 7785 identifier. And we wanted to, some of them Oh, basically, let me send this and then we can rephrase it. Looking at the 7785 spec, we are using different attributes like the settlement ID, chain ID. We're using the rollup contract. Let me just send the link right now. Sorry, let me open the right file.
Skelly, I think you also had some thoughts on how maybe 7785 fits into this.
Yes. Yeah, so regarding 7785, the way we envision the resolver is for it to be very, very flexible. So not necessarily we are tying this up for 7785 or any other, let's say, way in the future to come up with a struct or any subsequent ERC/ENSIP to be able to define what extra data a chain can provide that is useful for, I don't know, off-chain or smart contracts or whoever to resolve, right? Just using, I know, for example, as you said, like base.l2.eth, and you'll get the portal address, this and that, and et cetera, right? So you'll get a lot of the cool, very, very useful addresses that sometimes are very sensitive and people shouldn't go into like random websites to get those. The other thing is that since we don't yet know what those structs would look like, nor we have the information, nor we have the ownership mechanisms for those to be properly handled, this is why we are kind of aiming to just release this more flexible resolver for now, which will allow us to wrap it with any other, let's say, subsequent standard that we can all agree on that would be useful for these chains to populate. Having said that, as well, I'm not sure I understand the requirement for having to create a specific ENSIP for something that already is an ERC, such as 7930 or 7828. Do you think we should also create an ENSIP that standardizes or showcase how the resolver would work rather than just doing the spec? Okay, perfect. Okay, we can do that. That should be pretty straightforward. That's it.
Yeah. I want to say I do agree with what Skelly is saying. We need it to be as minimal and as abstract as possible. I was just studying that we also need it to be NS compliant, which we can help. That's our area of expertise. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, as Josh said, like, yeah, we can take this on another call, and we can definitely work with you guys so you can. I mean, you have all the assistance that you might need from our end. If you want to just champion that ENSIP, we'll love that.
Okay, great. Anything else on this topic? Otherwise, we can keep moving. Cool. Up next, we have the Axal team on 7702 and transaction batching.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Good to see everyone. Ash from Axal. We're building a pretty consumer-facing app focused on DeFi saving, kind of. So just making it really easy for people to get access to USDC and then earning yield on it, aggregate over a bunch of protocols, and then automate the movement of funds between them. I'm here with Dev, who's going to go through a lot of the technical challenges we've encountered. Tons of fun stuff, but yeah, I'll just pass it on to Dev.
Thanks, Ash. So yeah, our product's goal is savings accounts must die, and we're starting out with stablecoin investments. So currently we're investing in 4 different protocols all on Base, and we're working on increasing protocols to be also on mainnet, Arbitrum, and Polygon. I'll get into what chains we're going to support in a second. Yeah, so but the key features our platform provides is all transactions are processed through a trusted execution environment, with the signer always being in an enclave, so no one can see the signer. All signatures are verifiable for user operations in order to increase their yield per year. We've audited our entire application by Sherlock before we released into production last month. Yeah, so we have our goal is to have the best yield across all our competitors, not just through protocol diversification, but also through multi-chain non-slippage deposits. That's our main goal at the end. Yeah, best non-speculative yield on stables. And we don't really have a budget because our operating cost for this application is incredibly low, as we'll see in one sec. So current integrations include Morpho, Euler, Yo, Gauntlet vaults, all in base, with an average APY of around 10%, including rewards. So there's literally zero gas thoughts on behalf of our users because we want it to be as non-crypto native of an app as possible. So yeah. Challenges on the technical side mostly include gas accounting and sequential processing. That's what we faced with our previous iterations of our application. So for gas accounting, we always needed to ensure that that the native gas token goes to zero, which is incredibly annoying for users and us to manage. And sequential processing meant that we were waiting for transactions to process one after the other, and we moved to 4337 wallets, but the session key management and having the session key in accordance with user logins, because we don't want to create session keys with unlimited permissions, and we also don't want that to be an issue on the user side while also giving them access to their wallet. So that was an entire arc of just trying different things with session keys, but ultimately we decided it's best if users always have access to their wallets. With 4337, we realized that users would lose access to their wallets if us or our bundle provider went down for even a day. So yeah, and then cross-protocol integration and security and performance. These are some things that we focused on and try to make it as bleeding edge as possible. There's other market and operational reasons why we moved to the product, but that's maybe for another demo. So I'll first start with the 7702 implementation. So it's only available for all Pectra upgrade chains, which are currently Base, Arbitrum, all OP stack chains, and mainnet for the most part. So we are currently working on mainnet and Arbitrum deposits for USDC. I'll get to that in 1 second again, but our goal is to have user-owned EOA wallets with quorum key signers, right? And we can shift these signers every few months or every few weeks, depending on our operations. So when the user first deposits money with us, we convert the wallets into 7702, which are smart accounts, but that can also act as EOAs. We bundle all transactions so that all protocol deposits happen atomically within a matter of seconds. And for cross-chain compatibility, we are currently working with hooks and CCTP so that even cross-chain, we don't really need to compose transactions one after the other, and we can just have a minimal amount of transactions and waiting between deposits. So our implementation currently deposits into these protocols in around 400 milliseconds, including the trusted execution environment signing. We've tried 7-figure stablecoin deposits, withdrawals across, this is inaccurate, my bad. This is 7 pools. And it's the average cost is around 1 cent. So this screenshot was taken when there was a gas spike on base, which meant we were paying a bit more. But I think it's still pretty impressive considering you can have around 14 transactions in one batch, including approvals to all of these pools including approvals to USDC to spend on these contracts. With the previous approach, it was with EOAs, it was $1 in gas fees and a minute or more in processing time for just one pool. So this is incredible progress, and the user can always access their funds through multi-factor authentication, which is also really important. If the user wants to go on Euler and Morpho and withdraw, they can easily do it, and we'll still detect it because we listen to ERC-20 logs instead of making contract calls every few seconds. So on the user side, this results in gasless transactions and seamless multi-protocol deposits, as you'll see in our demo in 1 second. And we have an average APY of 9%, including more protocols every day in order to increase the yield for the user. On the DE implementation, we're using Nitro enclaves on AWS. So this isolates our signing operations completely so that no one can go into even the memory and see what's going on. We have an open source signer implementation in the DE, which you can find on our GitHub. And we also have custom policies enforced within the DE and also on multiple other layers of our stack to ensure that all wallet operations either transact with a known user wallet or one of these 4626 vaults for now. And then the round trip for this is around 200 milliseconds as well. Upcoming features for the DE include reproducible bills and attestations for Oracle pricing that we use for rebalancing. In order, if we want to move the user's funds into another vault, we need an attestation that is indeed that a condition indeed was met of a higher APY or a lower token price, one of these things. So one major thing that most protocols don't currently do is auto-claiming of user rewards. The way these vaults work is you get a base APY on the token shares that you get, and also additional rewards that are volatile tokens and non-stables. So our goal is to convert these into stable coins as soon as possible in order to combat volatility. What we do is have WebSocket listeners stream blocks directly, and we listen for root set events from those from the reward distributor contracts so that we can immediately take actions on them. We also listen to the Merkle tree because we need a proof in order to submit the claim for the rewards, and then we can batch claim these for all our users using our own wallet. We don't even need the user's wallet to claim rewards for them. The rewards will obviously stream to their wallets immediately. And I think the last step is swapping rewards to stables. So we've been using solver aggregators like Li-Fi, Unison, and 1inch, and Audi, and so on. I think we're working on this. I think this should be out in a few weeks' time. But yeah, we just reinvested. So your returns are always compounding as soon as it can be. This is the technical diagram for our claimer service. What we're doing is literally just listening to log events, and as soon as we detect it, we send it to the claimer. We send the request to the claimer contract, and the rewards are then streamed to the user's wallet. Lastly, we're currently working on CCTP cross-chain swaps. This enables us to have non-slippage deposits on other chains. Let's say the user has USDC on mainnet, but they want to invest on base pools, or vice versa. They can do this without any slippage, which I think is incredibly important. If a user deposits, let's say $5,000, if they even see 4,999.99 cents, they're going to lose their shit about where their money went, right? Without any disclaimers, that doesn't make sense to most our users. And this I think this approach will obviate all of those issues, where if we have a burn and mint on the source and destination chains, we'll get the exact amount of circles token. And for non-circle tokens, we're thinking of using layer 0. That enables us with hooks after the mint has been finished on the destination chain, and then we can concurrently deposit into the 4626 vault directly. So yeah, I think to wrap up, our transaction flow is just the user action, and always a user action, as you can see in our GitHub, is processed to the. I'm sorry, yeah,
Okay.
I'll wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah. yeah, our future roadmap includes cross-chain and then also smart rebalancing, non-4626 protocol integrations like Pendle, and real-world assets as soon as we can. This is a brief demo. I'll just show half of it. So yeah, I'm already invested in it, and I want to withdraw from all these positions. It's as simple as just 2 clicks, and then you can see on the block scanner that it's already there. One second. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all these transactions were, and you can access this wallet as well, by the way. So that's nice. Yeah, I think that's it. Go visit axal.com. It's pretty fun. We have a mobile app coming soon by the end of the month, hopefully. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Deb. Last up, 7806.
Thanks, Josh. I need to share the screen. Yeah, I believe everyone can see right now. Yeah, hi group. I'm Han. I work at Circle, and this proposal 7806 is about a minimal intent-centric smart contract account. It's a SCA standard, but we built for the 7702 era, so it works with EOA. First of all, just clear the terminology. That the intent we are defining here is like a type of outcomes that the user want to achieve. It should be like pretty simple, unified, human readable, which is kind of very important for user experience when the user need to understand what they're signing or what they're approving. And it should be execution agnostic, which means to achieve this outcome, the solver or relayer can do whatever they want, but the intent layer will make sure that the outcome is always correct. And the motivation, we have been seeing intent in off-chain application a lot of times. Like when you're taking Uber, you set up your current location and destination and broadcast to the Uber network, and somebody will pick you up. And want to achieve similar user experience on-chain, we need to make sure that the intent is non-custodial, very important, and it's verifiable on-chain by anybody. So if I provide this signature, that's from me, and only me can sign it. And it can be easily converted to any prescriptive operations, basically the solidity destination value call data pair. And we want to change user to control or interact with their accounts through intents, and the account on chain can correctly understand those intents and carry out the operations in a good way. Yeah. And intents are by nature interoperable, because it is like an abstract layer of the result the user wants. So we only keep the core elements from users' demands. For example, taking the very common use case is token swapping. Basically, every token swap is just sending out a specific amount of token A and taking in a specific amount of token B, and that's all. It actually applies to any chains, any applications, any token, any amount. You can swap with Uniswap, Curve, any on-chain protocols, but basically the user is just trying to achieve this intent. And yeah, intents are also within single chain. Intent are atomic and can be matched directly without the need of any other smart contract to be engaged. For example, we have 2 swap intent. The first one, swapping out USDC for USDT. The second one, they want to swap out USDT for USDC. And as long as the gas fee can match with these 2 orders or these 2 intents, we're actually having a deal. We don't need any like AMNs or other smart contract on chain to keep trading for the intent submitters. We just mesh them together directly. Because this step can be done off chain in a very high efficient way, it's pretty scalable. And with the intent defined in our 7806 standard, it doesn't limit it for you to have a sequence nonce reentrance attack. Even the intent can also be replayable. So which means multiple intents can be executed in parallel for each user. And also our 7806 SCA support all the basic smart contract account functionalities like gasless on-chain execution, batch on-chain execution, assets delegation. It's fully customizable and modular. And we're building for 7702 because we think it's a huge milestone for intent. Fundamentally, it enables EOAs to verify their own intents, which is very important because if you're dedicated this verification to another smart contract, it basically turns into an Axal or another protocol like it's just the traditional way of how relayers things work on chain. But with 7702, everybody can verify their own intent, so they can use their own standard. They can define their own way to keep things secure for themselves, and also keep the intent layer unified and interoperable across multiple accounts. We have a website, ERC-3806.io. Feel free to check. We also have a playground that basically demo how everything works, from creating a wallet to upgrading to 7806 to carry out on-chain operations. And then in the last step, you are able to execute a batch transaction using the token we just made. Yeah. I'm running out of time, so I will not go into details about all the technical implementations and how it works, but just rest assured everything is pretty simple. Our standard only defines 2 interfaces with 3 APIs, and that's all. We leave everything else for the developers to work on, and hope people can start trying with the standard and see how simple it is, how easy to use. And if everybody can get together to build an interoperable intent layer, I think it will resolve lots of gaps between different wallets providers, different applications, and definitely help a lot for cross-chain intent as well.
Thank you, Han. I think I have a couple questions in the chat. And do you have a link to the Axal draw? Maybe you could share it in the Telegram later if possible.
Of course, I can just share it.
Cool. And I think Ash had a question as well.
Yeah, I was just curious if there was like a circle specific use case that you guys had in mind, because this is pretty general and cool, but yeah, just curious.
Yes, this is not specific for Circle products or raised by like proposed by Circle. It's just I come from Circle and work with lots of Web2 customers, and you can feel that their demand of using crypto is like they don't want to really know the technical detail about that. They want to move this liability to a relayer or trustworthy partner, and in that case, right now, if you're thinking that all the CCTP stuff you just mentioned and all the other interaction with USDC is still transaction based, you need to know what you're actually doing. You're sending out this token to somebody else, and you're trading with Uniswap, you're trading with Curve. You don't have to, but it's good that if you understand how those contracts works. But if we can take this layer, abstract the technical detail out, and only have user focusing on their intent, and then it will be much easier for everybody to use those products, and the underlying contract protocol can switch while keeping the intent always the same. For example, the swap token intent, I don't think it will change. Like it doesn't need any modification. It will just work forever if you're swapping 2 types of tokens, and this is what you need. Unless ERC-20 is broken, we will introduce a new standard. But yeah, that's basically the idea here.
Good stuff. What's your Telegram? I'd love to shoot you this.
Yeah, yes, I'm in the chat as well. Yeah. Any last minute questions? If no, I think that's all.
Thank you, Han.
Thanks, George.
And here's his Telegram. Oh, there you go. Cool. All right, we can end it there. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, a little bit over. See you next time.
Thank you.